asked about a poll in my short time at the tenure, and I should probably not make it a practice to comment on specific polls, but I will note that it is always dangerous to look at any one poll because they are snapshots in time and you can see other ones. I will say that we have been heartened by the support from the American people and the support, the bipartisan support we've seen in Congress for further assistance to aid Ukraine in defending its people from Russian aggression. That support has been longstanding. It has been there since the beginning of the war, and we expect it to continue.
And do you think, though, that the administration is doing an effective job at keeping the American people's support, substantial for continued support if we're starting to see numbers like this?
Again, I'm just not going to comment with respect to a poll, but I will say that we will continue to make the case that it is in the interest of the United States to defend Ukraine. It is in the interest of the United States to see that democracy is preserved. It is in the interest of the United States to see that Russian aggression has to be answered. And so we will continue to make that case, and I will let polls speak for themselves. I guess polls don't speak for themselves, but I will let the polls stand as they may be. But we will continue to engage with Congress, where we have seen robust bipartisan support. Yes, and you do see dissenting voices, but overall we've seen bipartisan support for continued support for Ukraine, and we will continue to push for that.
And just staying on Ukraine for 1 second, last week the department put a readout of the meetings that state, NSC, and DoD had with Ukraine regarding long-term security negotiations and agreements between the U.S. and Ukraine. Do you have any idea as to when that kind of structure for long-term support for Ukraine is actually going to come to fruition, when we'll see announcements on that? Is that something that's happening anytime soon, or are we 3 to 6 months away from that?
I don't have a date. I wouldn't want to put a time frame on it because we were in the middle of those conversations. But in the conversations that we had with our Ukrainian counterparts, we did agree to follow-up meetings. I don't have a date to announce about when those meetings will occur, but there will be follow-up conversations between the United States and Ukraine. And I should note that the conversations, the bilateral conversations between the United States and Ukraine are just one part of this process. The other members of the G7 are having their own bilateral conversations about how they can assure Ukraine's long-term security. And there are 12 other countries that signed on to that statement of support who will also have their own bilateral conversations. So put together, this is a multi-country effort to assure Ukraine's long-term security. I don't have a time frame on when we'll have next steps to announce, but it's something we're pursuing aggressively.
Do you think Ukraine will see those long-term security commitments by the end of the year?
I just wouldn't want to put a time frame on it. Before I leave you, though, I understand that it's your birthday today. Happy birthday. So I won't lead the room in song. That might embarrass, especially me. I'm the one with the microphone, but happy birthday nonetheless.
Thank you.
I was going to mention
Matt,
that.
yeah,
Got away
right.
with it.
So see, that was a preemptive strike on my point.
If the two of you want to sing together, that's
Matt,
no
you
one
first.
else has to join.
Maybe afterwards, off the record.
Go ahead.
The protest happening in front of the State Department for Bangladesh regarding free and fair election. Do you have any comment on that, what they're doing there? And the situation in Bangladesh is really, really bad now, but they're demanding for democracy in Bangladesh. So please, what is your...
As we have made clear many times, as I have made clear many times for this podium, we support free and fair elections in Bangladesh. We've made that clear publicly. We've made that clear in conversations with the Bangladeshi government, and that will continue to be our policy.
Thank you.
All right, you've had your hand aggressively raised for a while. Go ahead. How could I miss you?
Thank you. Jackson Richmond, Epoch
Yeah.
Times. A few questions. One, regarding the buildup in Hormuz, is the State Department concerned about the potential for escalation in view of this new troop buildup in the region? Second, what's the latest on Robert Malley? Any update? Has it been fired? And finally, what is the State Department's reaction to China and Russia sending a naval force near Alaska?
So with respect to the Strait of Hormuz, I would refer to DoD for that question. What I'll say is that the United States, in coordination with our partners and allies, is committed to protecting the freedom of maritime navigation and the free flow of commerce. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital waterway for global markets with more than $1 trillion of seaborne trade transiting it annually, including 25% of global crude oil. With respect to Rob Malley, I don't have any updates beyond what we've said previously. And with respect to the exercises off the near Alaska, I don't have any comment on those. Go ahead, Goyal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is that as far as Russia's war against Ukraine is concerned now over 500 days, and and millions of people around the globe are in trouble or hurting or in many ways, including food, lack of food and security and social and all that. Also, my question that next month President Biden will be in India at G20, and many G20 leaders will be joining Prime Minister Modi in India. You think this, as far as Russia's aggression against Ukraine is concerned, will be solved, or are we hoping anything coming out of this G20 in India?
I will say that in all of our conversations with allies and partners around the world, we continue to discuss the war in Ukraine. It is always one of the top topics that comes up in all of our conversations, and I have no doubt that will be true at the G20.
And sir, sorry,
One more, yeah.
what are we doing as far as millions and millions of people are suffering as far as food is concerned because of this war, and in many other ways, mental and all that?
I'm sorry, what was?
What are we doing? What message do we have those millions and millions of people who are suffering because of this war in many ways, including food, lack of food?
So it is a matter of great concern. Obviously, we were concerned that Russia pulled out of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which was responsible for delivering food to millions and millions of people around the world. And the fact that since they pulled out, Russia has bombed grain facilities in Ukraine, which has taken further grain off the market. We will continue to press for return of to the Black Sea Grain Initiative. And I will say, on behalf of the United States, we have increased our food aid around the world to try to address some of that shortfall.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Matt. My first question on Burma. War crimes committed by Myanmar's military, including the bombing of civilians, have become increasingly frequent and present. A team of the United Nations investigators say in a report published today. So would you share your comment about this report?
Let me take that one back.
Second, on Bangladesh, Richard Nephew, the U.S. State Department Coordinator for Global Anti-Corruption, just concluded his visit to Bangladesh and met several high-ranking officials. During his visit to Bangladesh, the English daily newspaper Daily Star published a bombshell report revealing that Mohammed Saiful Alam, the owner of the Asalam Group and an affiliate of the current Sheikh Hasina's regime, had laundered over $1 billion and established a business empire in the abroad. StateWatch.net and OCCRP have revealed same type of reports on massive corruption and money laundering. During Mr. Richard Nephew's meeting with Bangladeshi Foreign Secretary, he indicated that they might consider sanction as a tool against corruption. My question is, does the United States government intend to impose new sanctions, especially on those involved in corruption and money laundering?
So as I said in response to a different question earlier about a different country, we never preview sanctions actions before they take place. Generally speaking, sanctions can be a tool to fight corruption. We have other tools as well, such as freezing assets and giving partner nations information so they can prosecute cases. And we encourage Bangladesh to root out corrupt actors operating within its borders fairly and impartially. All right, I'll do one more. Yeah, go ahead.
Sudan?
Sure.
The fighting in Sudan is only intensifying. What message do you have? What steps do you think the United States is going to take forward to stop the fighting?
So we will continue to engage with partners in the region to try to achieve a peaceful outcome. Obviously, it's a very difficult situation, but it continues to be our belief that there is no military solution to this conflict, and we will continue to pursue diplomacy, and we will continue to press for the delivery of humanitarian assistance to the people of Sudan who ultimately are suffering.
But any pressure that will be exerted on any or imposed on any of the fighting factions?
We have already imposed sanctions on a number of parties, and we won't hesitate to use those tools in the future if it's appropriate. Thank you.